Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where we have the TNT takes for you on Survivor 47. And as you guys can see, we're missing a beautiful, familiar face. Chris, unfortunately, he and I have some scheduling conflicts for the whole duration of Survivor 47. So this season, it's going to be me and Drew, and Coach Drew doing it. So welcome
Thank you for having me.
The Survivor Weekly Reviews.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Especially coming off my marathon, I kind of went through Survivor withdrawal for the last 2 months. So it was very exciting to not only go back into watching Survivor this past Wednesday, but also podcast again about it, because that was basically half of my summer. So I'm looking forward to talking about the season. I think that we are off to a pretty hot start. It seems like it's fairly universally praised so far. I've seen people compare it to premieres of old, and I think that's a good start with this.
For sure. I've seen some mixed. I feel like everyone has different feelings on certain things that happened, but I think it's pretty agreed upon that was a pretty good episode. Good way to get us into the season. So. But first, I want to ask you real quick, just out of curiosity, what was your favorite season to go back and watch when you did the marathon?
Vanuatu. I would say the Vanuatu, on a rewatch, and that was like my fourth or fifth rewatch at that point. It's so much better than people give it credit for. I feel like anyone that has to more than once loves it. They have to. I would say outside of that, Edge of Extinction. Yeah, I feel like that gets a lot of hate because of the twist and the winner, I guess. But I really enjoyed it. And the new era was a lot of fun on this time around, just because it was fairly fresh, but I had forgotten about a lot of stuff. But I would say Vanuatu. To answer your question, it's Vanuatu.
Vanuatu. Love that season. Glad to hear some praise for it. Yeah.
It's amazing. And, going into this one, did you have any expectations, going into 47? I'm just going to say this right now. I'm not going to use the pun that everyone has been using for 47, because it's been played out since last
47.
It's been played out since last season. So I won't be saying it. Jake, if you want to say it at any point, cool. But did you have any expectations
about this season? Well, don't want to jump too much ahead, but John was like the guy. Like I know him. I've listened to that podcast growing up. I've heard all about it even before I started listening to it, and so it was like, oh yeah, okay, he's on it, and I know him. I like him, and he's a very compelling speaker. So I was like, I feel like he's the guy that Jeff's going to go to. That was really my only expectation going into this season, because I've been very busy. I think we talked about it on the
finale.
Yeah. A lot of things happening in my life recently. So this was the first season, I think, of the new era where I didn't really watch all the interviews with everybody. So I kind of went in with a blank slate, and honestly, I kind of like it, because I don't have any preconceived notions about the contestants except for John. So really my expectations were just, is there going to be another Banu or something like that? And we might have another one. We might have another Banu.
I think we might have, and we're going to talk all about that whole debacle a little later. I would say that my expectations going to this, I've been more on the positive side of the new era. I think that a lot of qualms that people have the new era, most of them aren't rational. There are a few that are, and I feel like Survivor has slowly gotten rid of those issues from 41 to 47. But whenever people like to complain about casting, I just tell them to kick rocks. But a lot of these twists they've had, they figured out which ones work and which ones don't. And I mean, to be fair, I did really enjoy Sweater Savvy, but I do like the way they went with it this season. So how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I did like it. I've never really had anything against Sweat and Savvy itself. It's just that they did it for 6 seasons straight. You know, anytime you do something like that, anytime you do any twist, really, like 6 seasons in a row. We said the same thing about the tribe swap when they would go from like 2 tribes to 3 tribes, back to 2 tribes, then merge or whatever. And then we got no tribe swap, and it's like, can we go back to tribe swaps? So it's like, just keep it fresh. And I agree that the way they went about it this time was interesting because it wasn't just like one little will they, won't they. It was like an actual sequence of events where they had to like compete against each other, and they even like fought over the thing at the end of it. Yeah, I like this. I like it.
And so I was telling Jake before we went live, I was at a watch party, not any of the big ones, but it was a fairly big one. And when the fight over the advantage happened, it was very RHAP heavy. So we all know who they were rooting for in that situation. And when she lost, everyone started booing. So I decided that I was going to antagonize everyone. So I started clapping and celebrating, like very tongue in cheek, like everyone kind of, I had to. But even that, like that's something that we don't see all too often. Now, I think the last time we saw someone fighting over anything was like Ko-Rong on the Bronze Tribe with the idol. If I'm not mistaken, it could have been something a little later. So that was interesting because you could tell they doing it. It wasn't malicious behind it. It was just, I beat you to it. I almost sneakily got it away from you, and I still kept it. So going off of that, when you look at these tribe dynamics, and I saw someone, oh yeah, there it is right there. The cast seems very young. I agree. I feel like that is something that people have said a lot in 41 to 47. And I think that this is the season that I finally like, wow, yeah, this is a very young cast. Looking at the ages, we have one person in their 50s and one person in their 40s. Spoilers, that person goes home. So how do you feel about that? Is it now a young man or young woman or young person's game, or should they continue to, go back to casting, diversity as far as ages are concerned?
Yeah, when I agree with you, where like before it was never that very noticeable to me, but then when I would look it up and see how young, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, those were young casts. I just never really noticed it that much, especially like we saw Gabler take out the win. I mean, I think he was the oldest guy on the cast, so it shows it's not impossible, but this time around, when I heard John say like, oh, I'm the oldest here, and everyone's talking about how I'm old, I was like, whoa, yikes. Like, you're like, he's considered the old guy here. Like, ugh, yeah, kind of not.
Yeah, John's 42. John's 42. I'm 33. And it's like, okay, so this man is closer to my age than the youngest person on this season, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, that's not true because the youngest person on the season is 24. But even still, when he makes the Vine reference, and he's like, "Oh, do you guys understand that reference?" Or no, I don't know which order it went in, but I'm like,
they
"Wow."
said it to John, like, "Oh, do you know Vine?" He's like, "Come on, guys,
I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Not that old." I mean, I remember Vine from when I was in college. I'm sure that you were around for Vine. Like, it's not
Vine. Not to make you feel super old, but like Vine was like middle school for me. I'm 22, okay. I'm 22, so Vine is like middle school. So I was like, okay, yeah. John knows Vine. He knows Vine. Come on, guys.
And he's very big in pop culture. Like, he knows what's going on in pop culture because of the podcast and who he has worked with in his life, especially the last 20 years. But it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I wonder how he's going to get out of this. And the reason I said that is because Jeff straight up said John's one of the greatest narrators that we've ever had on the show. Can't wait for you guys to see him. And so even in my draft pool, I'm like, well, John's not going home first episode. That'd be crazy because he's been shown a lot in the pregame press, all the previews, and Jeff's hyping him up on his podcast. Do you feel like that was done on purpose so that it would catch the fans off guard?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like sometimes Survivor likes to, like, the editors and the producers, they like to kind of mess with us. I really believe that. And I think that's what they were doing for sure. And also because, like, John, people know him. People know him, you know? And so it's like, why not market him? You know, it's milk that dry. You know, if he's going to be gone first episode, then you got to, like, get everybody hooked and then
absolutely
try to keep it going. So,
and I want to go on this one too. You know, Aisha was very lucky Teeny was on her tribe, and I wanted to talk about that because I was talking about this on the way back from the party. Of okay, you people meaning production, know who Aisha, who she is. You know where she comes from. You know what she does. You know that Teeny is, one, a super fan, but two, comes from the live game, online game world. Played a lot of these games, is a fan of RHAP. You know, like, you have to know this. I don't believe that they had no idea about this. How do they end up on the same tribe?
Yeah, so I've read conflicting things about the whole Aisha thing. I've read that they didn't know. They just straight up did not know that she was on RHAP. Kind of find that hard to believe. Also, I feel like she talks about it pretty openly. So I feel like she would probably be open about that during the casting process itself. Like, it would be kind of a compelling thing to be like, I'm a podcaster. I talk all the time about how good I would be at the game, or like I criticize other people. I want to put that to the test. I want to put the money where my mouth is, you know?
Yeah.
So I would be shocked if they didn't know that, but that's the story that they're going with apparently. And they like to cause conflict. So they did this on purpose. If they knew that Aisha was on RHAP, they absolutely did that on purpose. They're like, oh, of anybody on this cast, who's going to know who she is? Teeny. Let's put them on the same tribe, see what happens.
And of course, if they didn't know, she says it in, I think, her first or second confessional. Oh yeah, I podcast for Rob Adams' podcast, this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. And like I told Jake before we went live, because there were so many RHAP people at where I was at, they lost their minds as if they were on the show when Aisha name dropped RHAP, and good. Like, what that podcasting network has done for the community is great. But in the back of my head again, it's like, I just really want to antagonize them and want her to go home now. I don't. Like, I really want her to do well. But I need it. I don't need you guys celebrating over every little thing or saying 40, you know what, every single time that it's referenced. Idols and how they went about them this season. I'm very excited. I'm very excited how they went about doing it. So what were your thoughts on that?
Oh, I was so into those scenes with Gabe. Oh my gosh. My eyes were glued to the screen. I was like, this guy is crazy. Like, they're talking, like, he's like dropping the box like on the rocks. They spot him being like, what is he doing?
And he's down.
Yeah. And every time he's like, it's just pure like comedy when he just opens the box. There's another one. Open it, the next one again after going through this whole trial. Oh, there's another one again. And I'm just like, I just think it's chaotic and I really love it. And of course, I have always been a fan of like work to get the idol. Like, idols should not just be hidden and you just pick it up and boom, you have an idol. There should be a clue. There should be some sort of, maybe a puzzle or some sort of trial that you have to go through. Like, I really liked when they would do like, oh, you have to, get on the boat at night and go to a different island or something. Or there was one time where like somebody had to go to the other tribe's camp. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And this is definitely in that vein. So I enjoyed it.
Well, and it's funny you say that because we have a moment in the episode where a certain person is clocked finding a key without a clue and has to basically try to lie their way out of it. And it's just because, once again, at this point in Survivor history, I guess, most people know the show. Most people have seen at least 41 through 46, and they know there's no way you just found that without some type of clue. This is no longer, the 20s and 30s where you can just go out there and just find things. You have to have clues to get to certain points. And I like that. I like that people that's a form of gaming the game that I feel maybe, I won't say underutilized, but underappreciated. Just like, hey, I know how this works. I know what this person is doing. Maybe they don't trust me. How would you react in that situation, though? If you were caught red-handed, but you don't think you're being caught red-handed because you think you've lied pretty well, how would you get out of that?
Oh man, I don't know. Like, yeah, if I think like, okay, he believes me that like, yeah, I just found this, just walking around. I mean, it's hard because he still is like, okay, but you're still kind of you're a little schemer, bro. You're walking around the jungle looking up, like, because it was way up there, like attached to the vine. It's like you're still like, being a little shifty guy. So I think I'd probably like try to dispel that somehow by like maybe staying back at camp, but you can't because I don't know. That's a really tough spot.
And I mean, staying back at camp, we see it. Another situation where one person's gone, and the other five are like, "Well, let's just go see." And that's what I like about the show in general, and this is why I've still remained on the positive end of the new era. My least favorite new era season is 43, and it's not that bad. Is all I can say is it's not that bad. 47 seems like it's off to no. Yes, it's the first episode. The last 12-ish could be crap. I don't think they will be, but even the cast, I have memorized almost everybody on the cast so far. That's the first time I've been able to do that since 37, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where that goes. Who's your winner pick?
So, like I said, I was blind coming into this. So if picking a winner, having a winner pick, you can't. Now I think it's Sam. I think Sam is my winner pick. Maybe that's too much like Edgic. I'm not like, I don't like do Edgic analysis myself, but I like to browse the Edgic subreddit sometimes. They're pretty high on Sam, and definitely while I was watching it, I was like, okay. It kind of felt like Michelle a little bit, where it was like, why are they giving him some of these? Like,
what does he have
they're
to
not
do with anything going on here?
Yeah, he had nothing to do. It was all Andy and John, and even like Annika and Rachel. He was like the least relevant person on that tribe, but yet he was kind of the narrator of it. So that definitely caught my eye, and it seems like he is definitely game savvy. He had a strategy coming in, and he's gonna do that, and it seems like he's succeeding so far. So yeah, as of right now, I think he is probably my winner pick, because also it seems like the train wreck tribes always have the winner somehow. So since he's on that tribe, it's like, okay, who's the most competent?
You think this is going to be the train wreck tribe? You think this is it?
I mean, who was the train wreck tribe last season? They had Banu, and they chose to just keep keeping him. So it's like, kind of reminds me. It's like, I feel like is 40. Trying to remember. No, 45 and 46 are the two ones that were aired back to back, right?
Yes.
47 and 48 were aired back to back. I was gonna say that, like, I feel like those like sister seasons usually like mirror each other a little bit.
Yes.
But since they weren't, I guess it doesn't really work. But I'm definitely getting 46 vibes so far in terms of like Banu and the Trainwreck tribe.
Okay, and I want to touch on this comment before we go to a specific with the Bonner thing. I missed keeping the birdcage. So I think that only happened in 44, right? And I did
Yes.
enjoy it because of the how people went about either getting it from it or putting something back in it, or no one expecting certain because they're not looking for it. I think that is a twist that I would enjoy if they were to bring it back for maybe a 50. I don't think they're going to introduce anything too new between now and 50 because I feel like they're going to introduce a whole bunch of new things for better or worse for 50. But I do think the idle cage would be something that I wouldn't be opposed to seeing come back.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think if I recall correctly, like the only criticism I had of that was that they were giving them fake idols, and I kind of didn't like that, because if it's being made by production, uh, like that should probably be a real thing. It shouldn't be like, I don't know, because like the whole thing is like you should be able to discern based on like, okay, this was clearly like handcrafted by the beat or whatever around camp, but with that, it's like it was made by production, so it looks the same. But yeah, the bird cage itself, I totally loved that in 44. I would love to have it back.
Yeah, everyone says how the premiere was the best of the new era, but I think Jelensky stole the show for his premiere. 44 was also intense because the idol play round one. That's true. And 41 had a double tribal. This one was mid. I agree with everything that you said up until this one was mid. I do agree that Jelensky, for better or worse, carried that first episode last season because of how it's very Zayn Knight esque of just we've got this crazy person, and if he doesn't go now, he's probably going to go pretty far in the game. 44, we get the Brandon idol play in 44. And the 41 had a double tribal. Yes, my winner pick went home that episode. I picked Abraham to win 41, notoriously. And
Wow.
yeah, that didn't work out too well for me. But I wouldn't say this was mid. This is the first time that I've gone to a premiere party in the new era where everyone shut up whenever the commercials went off. Usually there's people like chirping here and there, and like people would laugh at the right moments, they would groan at the right moments. But for the most part, everyone was quiet while the episode was airing. And then when it went to commercial, the places blew up again. Everyone talked happened. And I feel like that's a testament to what we were being shown on television. And one of the people on the season that really got a lot of people like emotional, whether it's laughing, judging, being angry, whatever, is Andy. Andy's story doesn't start at that immunity challenge. It starts the night before or a couple, yeah, where it's shown that he's bonding with Rachel. And then it shows him having, night terrors, whatever it is, anxiety, and pulling Rachel aside at night. And Rachel is my winner pick. And in that moment, I groan because I'm like, well, shit. Because Jeff has already said, oh, yeah, there's going to be a thing that people are going to think is a showman's, but it's not actually a showman's. So I'm like, well, I hope it's not this because Rachel will be screwed if that is the situation. So without talking about the actual challenge, what did you think of Andy at the beginning of this episode, the middle of this episode, before we get to that actual challenge?
Yeah, so I got semi spoiled because I opened Twitter and realized, oh wait, I'm on the West Coast. What am I doing? But I quickly saw something about like opening a coconut, like when Andy opens the coconut, when John opens the coconut, and it was like, so I was like, I noticed at camp when they showed that scene where Andy opens the coconut and nothing happens. He's just like by himself. And then John opens the coconut. Everyone, whoa, yay, good job. And I was like, and they like cut to Andy. He looked like he was about to murder somebody. Like he looked freaking pissed. And I was like, oh shoot, that's what they were talking about. That's crazy. And just at the beginning of this, when he said like, not a lot of people liked me growing up, but then he said, I only had 4 friends. I'm like, well, you still had friends. I was like John, because John was like, 4 friends.
4 friends.
It must be nice. Yeah, like I mean, I think I had like 4 friends in high school. That's totally fine. And just when I saw like, oh, he's really worried about people liking him. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And so I definitely was like, is that going to be a theme? And I definitely noticed it, especially with the coconut. And so obviously what happened at the challenge shocked me, but I kind of saw the signs leading up to it. I thought they did a good job of like kind of planting the seeds leading up
it
to
didn't
it.
come out of left field when he finally had that moment during the challenge, because they had basically teased it. That was his story arc for the episode.
Yeah.
Was he's having these anxiety attacks, these moments. He's the way he's looking at his tribe, the way he's perceiving himself on the tribe, especially compared to John. It's not looking the best. And then we get to the challenge. And in my head, watching the challenge, it looked like, even though I was paying full attention, it looked like he was quitting the challenge. When in reality, he had finished his part and he was just sitting out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't on the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So he had, but in my head, because of, and I don't know, this is something that's how I think. But when he fell down, I'm like, oh man, he's quitting on them. He's quitting on them. And someone had to pull me aside and like, no, he's done with his part. He's actually just having an attack right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's when in my head, it's like, okay, he's not quitting on his tribe. He's just having a lesser version of a Caleb moment.
He's just really overwhelmed with like kind of, what's the word? Like, just like, oh my gosh, we're about to lose and I'm going to be voted out.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
And everyone that knows me knows that my second Survivor crush now, she's moved down 1 slot because Liz Wilcox exists. But Hannah Shapiro had a moment in Millennials vs. Gen X, and that's really how I compare, now that I'm like, a couple days removed, really how I compare this. I don't compare it to the Caleb thing. It's more to the Hannah thing, because like Andy was fine. Like once they got water in him, once they like calmed him down, like he was all right. And then we get to the big moment of unless you count the vote out, the big moment of the episode where he kind of just says, well, I'm boned, I'm screwed, I'm going home. These people don't like me, this, that, and the other. How much of that, and this is all opinions, like we don't know, how much of that do you feel was strategic, and how much do you think was just a real moment for this person to say, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling?
I think it was 0% strategic. Genuinely 0%. I have in my life, I've dealt with panic attacks, and it really feels like you cannot control yourself, like your emotions. And maybe it was I don't know if it was a panic attack. I don't know if it was some other, like, I don't know, but I can empathize with, like, I don't think he was like honestly consciously doing that. Like, I think it just came out. Like, that's what he was thinking, and it just came out. Just literally came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And he's like so desperate of like, what am I gonna do? And it was like Jeff is asking you straight up, how does it feel right now? And all your brain can say is like, tell him how you actually feel. And just, it was probably like very cathartic, of like, here it is, like, you guys saw, like, we lost, and now it's all, it's over, and I've this was my dream, and now it's over. I get it. And I don't think it was strategic at all. If it was, I don't know what you were trying to accomplish with it. Maybe like literally lower your threat level to the lowest possible rung, that there's no way that they think there's no way you can win, so they just keep you, I guess. I don't think that's very smart. If so, it just so happened to work. If that's the case, I don't think it was. I think it was 0% strategic.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm with you. I think there was 0%, maybe 1%, but basically 0% strategy. And I think this was a real moment We have Jay in the chat saying I feel bad for Andy. I can relate to being neurotic and paranoid. You just mentioned that. I have anxieties like that as a coach, as a lot of things. I've had moments before I go out to coach a game, before I went out and played games. I would have like little mini, not even mini. I would have panic attacks before I went out there. It's like everyone's going to hate me if we lose. I'm going to get blamed for the loss if this happens. It's just it's a natural thing to have. Now, obviously, this has been people are kind of on the fence on how they feel about Andy here. Some people are comparing him to Banu, which no, because I feel for Andy here. I was on the fence in the moment.
Yeah.
When it happened, but like once I removed, once I had time to decompress, once I had sobered up, I was like, no, I get it, and I don't think that it was an act. I think that because like you said, we have been shown 3 different times in one episode of this person just not not being level, and it's all right because that this game is supposed to mess with you. I think that Jeff said at the beginning of the episode where he says, oh yeah, well, we've got the cameras and everything, so they're not really isolated. It's like, no, you're going to feel isolated when people are ghosting you and when people are doing this and people are doing that. And I really appreciated Jeff saying that in that moment, because I have heard people for years say, well, they're not really by themselves. Like, yeah, you go out there and you're on the bottom and people are not talking to you, or you get paranoid that these people are not talking to you, and they are. You go out and do that and say, oh yeah, well, it's not the same. And so I do say that I do feel for Andy. I also think that Andy's probably screwed going forward, but we'll get to that in a second. So we get to the challenge. It's pretty straightforward. But then we get to camp, and this is where I know we're jumping the gun here. Do you think that if John had just said Andy's name, that John would have stayed? I know this is jumping the gun by a lot, but like the fact that he threw out Annika's name, I like the way it was portrayed to me, it kind of seemed like that's what ultimately screwed him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they already were like, okay, before, and I think they were kind of into Andy before the challenge. I think, it's just Andy's insecurities messing with his head that made him think these people don't like me, and I think that they were always kind of onto John of like, this guy's charismatic. He can speak really well. I mean, he wrote speeches for friggin' President Obama, for Pete's sake. I mean, come on. Could you imagine him at a final tribal council, like coming up with a speech? Like, it would probably be so good. I think that I think that like him being the older guy, which is crazy because he is not that old, also was like, okay, just not jiving as much. And so I think that John was kind of always going to be the guy, and then it swung to Andy, but then it kind of swung back to John because of his scheming, and because he probably was going to be able to get Andy if like he was able to brush that off and bring Andy back in, and then Sam maybe bring him in too. So yeah, I think they got spooked. I think they got spooked for sure.
Yeah,
by him throwing out Annika's name. Yeah.
I laughed how much people compared Freeze's and Andy to Austin just because their hairstyle. The hair means nothing. Also, if Austin made it far, they should want to cut him ASAP so he doesn't get as far. Oh, so also if Andy makes okay. As far as Austin, it's early. All we know, Andy could turn into an Austin. Andy could turn into a lot of people. We've got a long way to go. We've got a long road. And I also don't agree with this. Andy collapsing at the challenge is a red flag. Jake, do you feel like that could ultimately be a red flag, or like it was just because he had finished his part? That's why
And I actually had the same experience as you. I was watching with my fiance, and we were like, he's giving up. He's giving up on them. But then, yeah, I did realize, oh, it's just those people working on the puzzle. He already did, but I mean, I think some people, I think probably you and I um, have more. I don't know. I don't want to imply anybody is a bad person or anything for not understanding or anything, but like you and I have more empathy about that because we have dealt with anxiety and panic attacks. So and especially coming off of like last season with Kenzie and Ben, I think kind of gave us a different perspective on something like this. But um, I understand why some people would see that and be like, he is giving up, even if he's not actually participating in the puzzle. You still should be there to like root them on and help them call things out. So personally, if I were there, I would probably be like trying to comfort him or like have more empathy of like why that happened. But I do understand why some people may see that as a red flag of like, he's done. He's giving up. He thinks that we just lost. So he's just moping, or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't personally see it that way.
Yeah. And I do feel like, man, Andy, I feel like I want Andy to stay around a little bit longer just to maybe we get I know people kept comparing him to Emily Flippin when I was watching the premiere of just having such a colossal failure of a first episode and turning into the legend that is financial analyst Emily Flippin. I feel like we could get that with Andy, or we could get more of. I hope the Banu comparisons go away. I hope anyone that watched the live stream for 46 knows how I felt about the whole Banu of everything when I rewatched it. I don't get that vibe from Andy. And that's not really a knock on Bono. It's just I don't see them. I don't put them in the same boat. Yeah, closer to Jelensky maybe, but Jelensky is a legend, if only because of 40. Once again, I will not say that phrase. Period on this show this season. I promise you, I will not say it. I'm so tired of hearing people say that. And if I slip up, then someone call me out on it. So. Yes.
I'll be sure to call you out.
So John wants to go after Annika. And in my head, I was like, okay, so it'll be either Annika or Andy. It didn't seem like it was going to be John at all. And then we went back and rewatched, and of course, hindsight and all that. It's like, okay, yeah, there are signs here. At any point during the episode, specifically after they lost immunity, did you like clock it immediately? Oh, it's going to be John, or did you think that it was kind of up in the air?
No, I was completely taken off guard. Actually, Final Tribal did feel a little, or not Final Tribal, sorry, just Tribal. John made a comment and like they cut to everyone else and they like kind of had weird faces where they're like, what are we going to do? And I was like, could that be about him? But at camp, no way. I never thought it was. I thought it was him. I was with you. It's either Annika or Andy, and it's probably not Annika. So I was pretty confident that it was Andy, and I sat there with my mouth dropped for a few seconds after seeing even one John vote. I was like, what? What's going on?
Even when there were two John votes, I'm like, okay, so something got mixed up. Like the rest are going to be Andy, right? Like, or the rest are going to be like maybe there's no way that John, only because what, like we both said, we did not do any pregame stuff, but because of the pregame stuff that I had seen, there was no way John's going home this episode because Jeff Probst said John's a great narrator. John, this, that, and the other. Everyone's hopping on the John train. He's in all the promotional material. And John goes, it's like, wow, they really pulled the fast one on us. And it was a happy shock. I was shocked, but it was a, wow, when they want to, they can still trick us.
Yeah, definitely.
When they want to, yeah.
And it didn't, I mean, because like you said, when you rewatch it, you see the signs. And maybe some people might consider that to be flawed. Like, oh, I shouldn't have to rewatch it in order to see, but I don't know. I just personally felt like it was a good mix of like, you shocked me, but also like you didn't like I specifically think of Winners at War when Ethan got voted out. It was like, I think they mentioned they mentioned his name like once. Like it didn't even feel like there was no gratification or like lead up at all. It was
McHale
just
game
like,
changers.
yeah,
McHale,
it was just like
God.
shock value for the sake of shock value. I didn't feel like that was this, but I still was like, whoa, wow, that was very crazy.
They long conned us because
Yeah,
John was shown
totally,
in the
totally.
preview after 46 was done. They've
Oh
been
yeah,
doing this since what, April? They've carried us along this journey just
yeah,
to do that, and they got us, and I'm so happy that they did.
yeah.
I feel like that's a good sign of moving forward. And this comment, one observation I have is when the red and blue tribes see Andy survived along with John being gone, they could see Andy as the mastermind for succeeding in throwing John under the bus and rallying his tribe.
Or he played an idol, maybe.
Yes, they could. There's a lot of different ways that this yellow tribe could be perceived for the next. I don't know if they're doing a swap or not, but for the next few rounds, especially if Andy survives even one more vote, because then that might be fiction turning to reality of, yeah, Andy doesn't have any control right now, but if Andy survives another vote, he could have gotten himself into a spot where he's running the show. Um, John John looked like he was in actual shock, standing and I don't get it. I've never done the real thing, but I've had those eyes before, and I know those eyes, and that's a person that like just cannot believe what happened, and their bodies just kind of shut down. How do you think John took everything?
So I think he's doing okay. I think that I listened to the Pod Save America podcast with that was right after, I think it was either today or yesterday, where they talked about it and they're like, so yeah, all that lead up just for you to get out first. And he I think he's a good sport. His other co-hosts are they're really enjoying poking fun at him for being the first one voted out. They're like, you left us for months, or you left us for a month, and that's all you have to show for it, like, because because John is like an exception of all exceptions, where like the second that he got home from Fiji, they were just out there acknowledging like, oh, he's on the next season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is his name. His name is John Lovett. He is on the next season of Survivor. They don't ever do that. He went on like
He went on. I think Seth. I think it was either Seth Meyers or
yes,
it was
Seth Meyers.
Meyers.
Yes, he went on Seth Meyers, and he was like talking about it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm on the next season. I just got back," and I was like, "Wow, he has got to be a major focal point, or like he does something crazy. Maybe he like flames out early, but does something insane." No, no, he's just the first one voted out, and I think he's doing okay.
Yeah,
Based on the podcast that I've seen.
my dad's a big John fan. Like, he knows I watch Survivor. My dad doesn't watch Survivor. He called me and he was like, "So, am I gonna have to watch your show now?" I'm like, "Why?" It's like, "Well, because John Levin's gonna be on the show," and so I'm like, "I don't know who that is, but yeah, he's here." And my dad didn't watch the premiere. He was going to watch it later. And I called him like, "Hey, the spoilers, he got voted out. So you don't have to watch if you don't
Yeah,
want to."
yeah.
He also is a big fan of David Sampson because he listens to David Sampson's podcast. He was
Oh,
like, "David
interesting.
Sampson, when he played, how'd he do?" I'm like, "Well, he was first boot too. So,
Just
so you don't have to watch that one either." Another one of my friends thought that John Lovett was John Lovitz. And when John Lovett got voted out, she goes, "Well, you know who wouldn't have gotten voted out first? John Lovett." Coach Drew, what if it gets worse? I'm assuming this is referring to Andy. Yeah, what if it gets worse? It could get worse. But right now, all we have to go on is this, and watching this episode in a bubble. I understand everything that he did. I understand where he was coming from with everything that he said. that kind of anxiety and that kind of those types of moments, I feel, for me, I really appreciate those moments on the show. One of my, and I've mentioned this a few times, but specifically in Winners at War, there's a secret scene with Sarah and Kim at a well, and Sarah has a panic attack because she's saying, "Oh, when I played, everyone thought I was this horrible human being. I feel like, And Kim says, "We all went through a traumatic experience. We're the only ones that actually get it." Sarah's having a real moment, and I was so upset that they didn't put that in the episode because I like when you see what these games do to these people. It's not all drama and backstabbing and all that. Like, these people are being real people and being very vulnerable with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, in that situation, if he had 4 friends back in the day, he probably had a moment where he reverted back to high school him, and that's what we get from it. So, like, if it gets worse, they'll handle it or they won't handle it. But like that, worse is what's the word? You can perceive worse a lot of different ways, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. I don't know if I want this every episode, like some sort of like breakdown every episode. But, I think it's an interesting storyline to be like, Andy had these insecurities growing up. He thought he got over them, but they're all coming back now. Maybe in real life, he goes back to real life and he is fine. It's just specifically Survivor brings it out of you. And, it just seems like a classic, like Jeff Probst's passionate speech of like, this is what Survivor's about. This is, it breaks you down to your core. Everything about you will be exposed to the world, and, as cheesy as it is, it's true. We just saw it happen. And I enjoy that aspect of the show. And so I'm very curious to see how Andy, if he like is able to, like pick himself up by his bootstraps, so to say, and say, okay, that's in the past, I'm moving forward, or if it is like a constant little, thing, voice in his head where he's like, they don't like you, they don't trust you, whatever. Either way, I'm curious to see how it goes.
It was Colbert. Okay, it was Colbert.
Oh,
that's
okay.
fine. That's fine. Also, there are a lot of Banu fans in the chat. Where were y'all at when so a lot of the people that are praising Banu right now were in the chat when I was live streaming 46. And Banu survives what, 4 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes. Every time Banu was on the screen, I like, because it was 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I was like doing nothing but shitting on Banu, and like no one said anything then. And so now that Banu has all these stands, it's like, where'd you guys come from? Like, I'm going to assume they rewatched the season over the summer and have a newfound love for Banu. And maybe I need to rewatch 46, which I will be doing in 2 years, and to see if I agree with that. But just with the 2 times I've watched the season so far, I wasn't a fan of Banu, but I don't like hate the man or anything like that. I do think that he was a very fun character to watch. And him getting on his knees and begging to stay is one of my favorite gifs or gifs, depending where you're at. So Banu stands, like, we have no qualms. We have no qualms with each other. Jake, any final thoughts on the episode?
I feel like we've got some. I don't know if we really talked about Gabe that much.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can go. Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's a player. He's a player. He wants to be like a legend.
Yes,
and I'm kind of here for it. Like, usually I'm like, okay, dude, like, you're not going to be the next Boston Rob. You're not going to be the next Parvati or whatever. But, he's not really, I just like the way he's going about it. I think he's just like, I'm just going to play hard and like, I want to be on the Mount Rushmore, like this is the new era. Because with the new era, tell me if you agree with this. No one has really cemented themselves as like a legend in the 40s. Personally, I don't know who I would say if you were to force me.
So if we're okay, so this is I like this
Whole other
because I feel
thing
like
now.
people consider James. I feel like people consider James Clement to be a legend.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, because I think that James is not very good at Survivor at all. But like whatever. But he's a legend not because of the player he is, but just because of the character. And if we go off of that, then I feel like Carolyn would be the closest person there. And that's not knocking Carolyn's gameplay because I do think that Carolyn played well.
Right.
But I would say that if I were to if James is a legend, then Carolyn is absolutely a legend in my head, is way above James as far as everything. Outside of that, I think that we have a lot of. Are you a sports guy?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Fringe Hall of Famers. That's what you always hear. Oh, this person, Philip Rivers,
The
is a
Hall of
Fringe Hall
the
of
Hall
Famer.
of Very Good. The Hall of
Yes,
Very
the
Good.
Hall of Very Good.
Yeah.
I feel like we've got a lot of those players. Jesse. I feel like people like Marianne, people like Omer. And it helps that post 40, a lot of these people have got invested in not only RHAP, they're going on all of these podcasts and they're making a name for themselves off of the show that turns them into legends without ever having to play again. People can look at
true. That's very true.
You can look at Zelensky as a legend because people are still talking about Zelensky now. We're still talking about Bonu now.
I can't believe, I know the whole Zelensky thing is so crazy. Like Jeff is like the leading guy on the whole keep Zelensky, keep bringing him up, like discourse. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, yes.
Carolyn.
But I do feel like when we get 50, and I'm assuming that at least half of the cast is going to be 41 or over, or season 41 or over, there are going to be a couple of those people that are going to solidify themselves as legends in the larger community.
That's
people
fair.
More.
That's actually true because a lot of the legends that we think of, they're only legends because they were able to come back. And
Kelly Wentworth, prime, yeah.
Yeah, if you just go off of her first season, I mean, she's nothing, no offense. But so, yeah, that's true. But I think kind of what I was trying to say is like, even though this is just my opinion, my experience, going through the 40s as I'm watching, every season as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a good season. Oh, that's another good season. And by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, that was a good season. I really like, X, Y, and Z players. But I'm never like, I guess what I'm trying to say, when I talk to my fiance or my family, they're fans. They love the show. They watch every season. But, once a season's over, it's over. They move on. Unless it's Boss and Rob or Sandra or Parvati or Tony, So we haven't had somebody like that. And actually, Carolyn is probably the best example because I think my family could probably all tell me about Carolyn. So I just think that it's interesting that somebody's like calling that out. It just felt like he was talking directly to me by being like, I'm going to be the guy who's going to do that. Who's like, you're going to remember me after this, and maybe it'll be like a monkey's paw type situation where it's like for a really bad reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to be for a really bad reason. But so far, I like him. He's playing really hard. He is creating a relationship with Sue and she's like super into it. And he's just like kind of being a little messy, but it's very fun to watch.
Well, and you bringing that up, I know this was brought up a lot once 50 got announced. A lot of people brought up, how many people do you think are going to go out and play 47 through 49 with the sole purpose of playing on 50? And not to say that Gabe is one of these people, but when you have confessionals like that they are showing, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, yes, you should always play to win. At least in my head, you should always play to win. But I also understand that a lot of these people see this as a way to move forward in the Survivor community to become one of these these legends. And if you do well 47 through 49, or you become this larger than life character 47 through 49, you do end up on 50, and all of a sudden it's mission accomplished. Now I can go play 50 and not really have to worry about what I'm doing, because at this point I'm just trying to win now. I'm playing with house money. I'm playing Survivor for the second time. I'm very interested to see how Gabe goes, because yeah, like you said, it could be a monkey's paw type situation. But even if it's not, even if he gets Jesse'd at Final Four, I feel like, I mean, Jesse's another person like Fringe, Hall, very good. I feel like if Gabe or whoever establishes himself this season, Andy, and they go out at Final Four, okay, cool. Cirie has been taken out of the game every which way possible. If you can think of a way, except for Medevac, Cirie has been taken out that way. They had to make up a new way to get rid of her in Game Changers because it's never happened before. So if you can do that and still be considered a legend, then I think that there's all that monkey's paw situation or whatever it is doesn't really matter, because you're always going to be looked at as one of the best. And do y'all think that, because someone also brought up Bonu coming back, but do y'all think that Zelensky will ever be invited back? No, not because I don't want him. I just don't think that they would.
I don't. It's almost like they like the idea of him, right? They think he's a punchline. He's they use him. They liked his vernacular, but I don't think that they want him on a season like for the long haul. Maybe they would be okay with him coming back and like only if he gets voted out pre-merge or something, but you can't always guarantee that. So I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think they would.
I feel like this is a question for the merge right now. Like, yeah, I'm gonna say Andy just to antagonize everyone in the chat, but like there's no, I can't answer this right now.
Yeah.
Could you possibly?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I mean, if you want us to make a guess, I think Gabe, honestly. I mean, like, no one's giving me like transformative, like crazy character. I don't know, like not yet. And that's fine. It's only the first episode, but yeah, I'm not sure. And also you were saying, for 47, 48, 49, are there going to be people who are like, oh, there's going to be a season 50. Like, I'm just going to go out there, go play balls to the wall. Like, just, try to make sure that I get on 50 and like kind of cash in all my 15 minutes of fame, or like make sure I'm a legend. For 49's being aired back to back with, or filmed and aired right after. So I would be so interested to see if they would do anyone from 49, because they didn't do anyone from 39 on 40. Because I think the whole point is like to celebrate everybody, and if the other cast members don't know who this person is because they haven't seen the season, so I think 49 might be too late for it.
I mean, they have Russell back for Heroes vs. Villains right after.
That is so. I like when you really think about that. That's really crazy that they did that. Like, that was supposed to be like the big season, and they are just like, okay, yeah, you guys don't know who this guy is, but trust us, he's crazy. Like,
he's a shitbag.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I hate nerds. But yeah, I think that this is not really a hot take, but I think that someone from 49 will be on 50. Just because at that point, hey, I'm going out, I'm shipping out, I'm going to go play Survivor 49. I have, 2 years of knowledge now, knowing that they're doing 50 right after we finish here. My goal right now, like I said, my goal is always to win, but my goal right now is either to win or do enough crazy shit or enough whatever to be like, you gotta bring me back in 2 weeks or whatever. Let me put on 10 more pounds and then go right back out, because historically, people that do back-to-back seasons are not targeted. Like, they don't go first. They don't go first. So if you're going off of that, if you're going off of that, Amanda, James, everyone from that,
Rupert on All Stars too.
On All Stars, If you go back to back, you have a better chance at making it farther in the game than some of these people that are coming back for the first time. You know, you brought up Ethan earlier, so now it's in my head because they really screwed that man. But Ethan coming back from All Stars was the last we played, and is third or fourth boot with this fun little dad hat. I loved Ethan that season.
I know, dude, I was so sad. I was so sad.
The way they did Annika by saying she's the leader gave me Gabon flashbacks to where they chose GC to be the leader. Okay. Except she handled it well. That's true. It was a bad move for Sierra to put the target on Annika, though. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Annika is in an okay spot, even though I was thinking like, whoa, like we're still doing the leader stuff. I thought that like everybody like knew we're not doing that anymore. But I think everyone likes her. So I think John tried, didn't work. You know, I think, trying to put it on her is probably not the best idea.
Yeah. I will watch Suri again. Well, Suri will be playing Australian Survivor versus the World.
I think so, yeah.
And I can't wait for that because one of the biggest issues people have with the new era is, it's 26 days. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Australian Survivor is so much better because they play for 1,000 days. So it's better. And it's like, well, this time they're playing for 15 days, which means you can't hold that over US Survivor anymore because they're playing a 15-day game and it's Australian Survivor. So, and I like Australian. I like Australian Survivor.
The way that you were acting towards people at the watch party is kind of how I like to act with people with Australian Survivor. Like, I like it. I don't really have that many issues with it, but I just kind of like to poke fun at people who are like so adamant that it's like a million times better than American Survivor. Maybe it's just my patriotism shining through, I guess. I don't know, but like it's just something about it that I'm just like, so I agree with you. Yeah, the 15-day thing, like, come on, guys, can't use that anymore.
Yeah, can't use that as an excuse anymore why Australian Survivor is better. And I'm not the most patriotic person, except for like the
Olympics
women's rugby.
Yeah,
like that's it. But it's kind of how. So during the marathon, at one point I said, I think that Parvati's her winning season, was overrated. And all people heard was, I think Parvati's overrated, which is never what I said. And all of a sudden they became very, what's the word? Not territorial, but like very
defensive.
Yeah. I'm like, guys, I'm not saying she's not top 5 all time. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Suri was the one pulling the strings that season. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
So, yeah. And I saw the comment, hope Suri wins Australian Survivor. If Suri wins Australian Survivor, I'd cry. I'd cry so much. I cried when she won the Traders. So, because I cried when she made it as far as she did in Big Brother. I will cry if Suri does anything big in any game because of how US Survivor has screwed her every single time.
She's such a reality TV, just like boss. Like, she's just like does everything and she just does well in everything. Like, when I heard that she had won the Traders, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, and if she didn't, like, I'm sure she would have just classic, like taken out because she's taken out at like the very end because she's such a threat. So I would not be surprised if she won Australian Survivor. I really would not.
Yeah. And it's only 15 days. So she all she has to do is probably utilize relationships she has already with the US players. We know for a fact that she's really good at just getting in well with everyone else. And, at a certain point, these people don't know her. I'm assuming maybe some of them do. You let this person get to the end. Oh my gosh, I'm already putting it out in the ether. Yeah, we really didn't touch much on Aisha outside of the the one-on-one challenge with the lockbox in the water and all that.
Yeah.
I do think she had a good episode. I am looking forward to seeing her more because she does. Her and Teeny both come from our side of the community. It's similar to with Tori and 42, even though I wasn't a Tori person. Tori comes from this side of the community, so I was really interested to see how she did.
Mhm.
Chanel from 42. Okay, yeah, Chanel from 42 comes from this side of the community. Um, Carolyn comes from this side of the community. It's always fun seeing these people go out there and do it. Teeny, because I've played live games, Teeny is more like I'm more on the Teeny train just because Teeny comes from the live game part of the community, and I work production for some. So I'm excited to see how the two of them do. But Rachel is my winner pick for the season. And I haven't picked a correct winner of a season since Jeremy Collins. So that streak's got to break at some point, and I think it's this time.
The only time I've picked a winner correctly is the very first season I watched live, which was Ghost Island. I picked Wendell, and I've struck out every time since.
Wow, that's pretty damn recent. So
it was the very first season I watched live, and I watched like a couple of those videos. I'm like, this guy's just really cool and like really charismatic. I'm like, he's gonna do well. He's the winner. And but yeah, ever since then, yeah, hasn't been. I think like I just started overthinking too much. It was like when I was thinking the most like simply was when I did the best.
I no comment, but but
we'll just leave that there.
Yeah, we'll just leave that there.
Let people say what they will.
All right. So as we start to wrap up, Jake, I'm really looking forward. I think this was a good first start. I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm really looking forward to talking about this season with you moving forward. Now, final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. Good start. I mean, I think that one of the most common criticisms of that me and Chris have brought up with the new era is it starts slow. It takes a while for us to like, okay, now we're into it. Like, and this is different. Like, I think I'm kind of like already into it right away. I think earlier you said like you already have most of the cast like memorized. And that was your way of knowing like, oh, okay, wow, that means I'm like really into it because, I it's actually the opposite. I still don't think I could tell you everybody's name, but like, I think I kind of know like, oh, it's that girl. She said this, or like it was a good episode. It was a good episode, and I have high expectations now.
Final two questions. Who do y'all think will be voted off next week? Andy, I don't know. Like, it depends on who loses, but Andy maybe. Maybe we lose Tina or Aisha next because they've also been featured heavily in the pregame prep. Yeah. So they're just going to do 3 weeks of like, hey, you remember all those people we told you were going to be main characters? Well, they're not. So
I could also see Rome getting voted out. I think that he's already kind of in the crosshairs of people. And unless I'm forgetting, did he get the idol? Or does he still have some more steps left?
I don't remember. Let's see. I'm going to my notes. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm on the Survivor wiki right now, and it says Gabe has the hidden immunity idol, and it says Rome just has the beware advantage. So he doesn't have an idol yet. And there's obviously still, if they lose, there's still 3 days or whatever to find something. But it's not looking good for him, because people who said that they were like vibing with him are now saying like, oh, that's not a good look. I don't like that he's just gone for long periods of time. I could see him.
It's first episode. It's the first episode. It's first episode.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think like Rachel has been really good so far. I mean, it's been, like you said, it's been one episode. Teeny, I think, kind of is like. I was pretty shocked at like just how quickly it was just like boom. Everyone was like, I like Teeny, I like Teeny, I like Teeny. Let's all work with her. It just happened so fast. I was like, okay, wow, good job.
Can we talk about what we think Andy might have found or said that makes Sam say, I never expected Andy to say this, but where advantage is too obvious? Any other ideas? No. No, because it's all red. I've learned a long time ago, and especially during the marathon over the summer, don't ever trust anything that they do in a preview for the next episode, because it's all a red herring. It's all a red herring. Doesn't matter.
They will be taken and executed.
They will be taken and executed.
No one was executed, guys.
No one died.
I was expecting Dan Lembo to have his head chopped off, and I didn't get it.
Oh, wrong person. He's actually dead though.
Oh no. Oh no, I'm so sorry.
No,
I just was like, because I think he was the one that they were showing in the preview. I'm actually really sorry about that.
So this is Dan Lembo. I'm like, wow, you're the one.
Yeah, I was watching you and I saw your face shot. I'm like, oh shoot, what did I say?
Okay.
Ooh.
Thank you to everyone in the chat. It's been a lot of fun getting back into this. Thank you to everyone that's listening to this. Whenever you're listening to this, Jake.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Take your torches and head back to camp. Still getting used to this, guys. Chris had it locked down. Grab your torches, head back to camp. We'll see you next time.
We'll see y'all soon.